Hey everyone, Nick Engvall here. Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about some of the people that make the sneaker history community and this podcast possible. It's more important than ever to think about who you give your money to when you're buying clothing to go with your kicks. Our friends at Guilty Goods started their brand with a goal of giving back, especially to the communities that make sneaker culture possible. With every purchase from Guilty Goods, at least 10% of the proceeds are donated to organizations like Big Brothers and Big Sisters, the Susan G. Komen Foundation, the Movement for Black Lives, and many more. You can save 30% on your order by using the code HISTORY at guiltygoods.us. Again, that's history at guiltygoods.us for 30% off, and you can feel good about your purchase knowing you're supporting a meaningful cause. Sneakers are all about presentation, and if you're like me, displaying your kicks at home or in the office is just as important as when they're on your feet. Sneaker Throne makes sneaker display cases featuring customizable LED lights, drop-side cases to showcase the entire side of the shoe, not just the heel or the toe, the whole shoe. They've also got display cases for trading card collectors and hat collectors. To me, it's the perfect way to display your collection. You can save at least 10% on your Sneaker Throne order by using the code HISTORY at sneakerthrone.com. That's history at sneakerthrone.com. If you're a Patreon supporter or a member of our Discord community, you already know about Kicks with V hot sauce and his small batch, locally sourced hot sauce. V has been one of the biggest supporters of sneaker history and the podcast since the early days. He's currently the defending champion in our community trivia nights competition. Kicks with V hot sauce has been a huge hit with the community. You can save 10% on your order by using the code SneakerHistory10 at kickswithvhots.com. That's SneakerHistory10 at kickswithvhots.com. Now, you're probably here because you like sneakers, and if you join the Discord, you know our community is about so much more than that. Whether it's the marathon-like community calls, trivia night debates, the in-person meetups, or just sharing our favorite experiences, we found that although we have such different backgrounds, we all have some unexpected shared passions. Not only does the entire community look out for each other when it comes to releases, we're like a support group for life in general. You can join the Discord community for free by heading to the show notes of this episode. After you're done listening to this episode, tell someone you like their kicks today. You never know how far a simple compliment can take you, and we all know how good it feels to have someone show their appreciation. Now let's get into today's episode.
Jordan trying to shake off Starks. Oh, what a LeBron James with no regard for human life. seconds. Bryant for the win. Iverson against Gill. The crowd on its feet. Allen for the win.
Welcome to the Sneaker History Podcast.
What up? What up? Welcome back to the Sneaker History Podcast. My name's Nick Engvall, and I'm with my guys, Mike and Robbie, to talk about what's been going on in the world lately. How you guys doing tonight?
Yeah, all right. Just trying to keep an eye on what's going on and, just hoping for a change finally, man.
Same here. I'm thinking about whether or not we can keep this energy long-term and through elections and such, but all in all, pretty rainy and okay day.
Yeah, I think that's kind of my biggest concern right now too. Is this energy just needs to continue on, and November is still a long way away.
Yeah. I mean, was it when this all started? Like just COVID. I mean, I feel like I've already lived through like 4 2020s already. I'm just like, please, just get to November.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, so obviously on this episode we took a week off to kind of stay out of the mix. I personally just felt like the Sneaker History platform, you guys all know where we stand. We made some posts, and Robbie wrote a great little blurb for one of the posts, and I just didn't want to distract from everything that's going on. I really think that this is a hugely important time in our worldly history. I don't even think this is, this is not just an America thing right now, as you're seeing all these people kind of rise up and show up for, to join the movement all over the globe. And, the fact that we have people listening all over the globe, I didn't want to just keep posting sneakers, because at the end of the day, as much as I love these things and I love the friends like Robbie and Mike that I've made along the way, it's just sneakers, and it's not important at all compared to the real shit that's going on out there. And so I just didn't want to distract from the messages that needed to be heard. And I think, we obviously want to keep talking about what's going on. We do want to talk about sneakers eventually again, because, that's what we're here to talk about. But, today I really wanted to take the time and kind of just look at the way all of these brands, the people that are out there, the athletes, the celebrities, how everybody is kind of responding and, speaking up on the protests that are happening, and, probably talk a little bit about the looting that has gone on. Because, here in my neighborhood in LA, there's a lot of stores that went completely empty that first couple of days. But yeah, I think it's just a really tough time to, feel like you're contributing enough. No matter what you do, you always kind of feel the pressure of like, this still has to change, and we still need to stand up, and we still need to fight for what's right. And that's been a really interesting thing, because as we're seeing a lot of these brands kind of come out and, either make a statement, or, some of the, retail stores have, after they've been looted, boarded up and put a message on their store. And, I just kind of wanted to throw it to you guys and see, I guess, who you think has done a good job, or I shouldn't even say a good job. Who do you think has been authentic in these past, few days, weeks, around dealing with what's going on, and, supporting or not supporting the, Black Lives Matter kind of movement that's happening right now?
Yeah, well, we all know the king of being authentic and not supporting. I mean, he's still chilling in the White House right now. But one person I've seen who has been doing a heck of a job supporting, especially even though his store is in the midst of everything that's been going on, has been Bobby Hundreds. I mean, he's been super vocal, looks like, on everything. I mean, he's like, look, I don't care about this store. He's like, I'd rather not get destroyed, but if it means that we can change something, I'm all for it. He's like, just keep protesting, y'all be safe, but that's all that matters right now. And like I said, he's been super vocal. I mean, I don't know everything he's doing clearly, but you're not supposed to know what everybody's doing. I don't think you need to post, oh, I donated this, that, and the other. No one needs to know. You do that, that's for you. And that's for the world to change. It's not for people to approve you on social media. And then another person who has, I mean, he's never shied away from the limelight of speaking his mind, but LeBron James, he's speaking out against, government officials, fellow athletes. I mean, no one's safe from getting, made accountable, which that's one of the reasons I really do like LeBron and, as an athlete, because he's not going to sit there what the reporter told him back in the day, shut up and dribble. He hasn't done that, and I can truly appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I don't have like a list of people either. I think Bobby's a good example for what you two have already said, is that, it's not about you losing product or your store being fucked. I mean, and I know this sounds like heartless saying it, but it's like your stores had to go, not because like you're doing anything wrong, but like when peaceful protest doesn't work, you have to have other means to show that you're upset. And I think it's a double standard with looting specifically, because obviously, the news wants to show black people stealing. Like, oh, why are you ruining your own communities? Well, every time a football team wins, they loot and destroy the city almost every year, right? And that's every race, every person, and it's clean fun, right? It's good old fun. Like, they need this as whatever stupid justification you can make for burning down cars after your team won the Super Bowl seems to get thrown out there and be accepted. But when every single type, I feel like the black community and people, allies of that community have tried every single thing before looting to try to get a point across. Check every box under peaceful protest, and from T-shirts and NBA games to Twitter messages to partnering with local leaders. Like, they've done everything they can, and I really don't like how the media wants to shed like the spotlight on looting and it being bad, when the people being looted, for the most part, who have a heart, come out afterwards saying, yeah, it sucks, my stuff is gone, but I understand your pain. I understand where you're coming from. I understand why you're doing this. And I think the understanding needs to be broadcasted by the people who've been affected by it, because it's not a good look being butthurt about your stuff being gone. Like, same reason why we don't really talk about shoes right now. It's because the material items are not important. Like, I'm really sorry you lost your Solar Red Yeezys in Flight Club. When that genuinely sucks. You missed out $8,000. That definitely is not fun. But it's much bigger than there's bystanders in every which meaning of the word, be it human, property, mindsets, moralities. There's always going to be casualties of something. Like, change doesn't happen through a flower field. So there's so many shops. I think Riff LA, Round 2 sucks. So I don't even want to really touch on that. But anybody in that Fairfax area who was affected, for the most part, responded in a loving way towards the cause. And I think that's what's more important than any particular person sending out, their thoughts on an Instagram story or anything else, really. So that's my long, convoluted thought on raiding and looting.
To me, the looting and all of the stuff that happens, whether it's burning cars or, whatever, I don't think that people understand the level of frustration, the level of anger, the level of hurt, the level of pain that a lot of people in this country are going through. And that's a natural response, right? Like, not justifying someone going out and doing something stupid, but like you said, change doesn't happen walking through a flower field, right? Like, you can only see this shit for so long before you start to get to a point of real anger, frustration. And, I try to relate everything to my experience, and I've had, a lot of anger for a lot of my life, for a lot of various reasons. And I've spent the last probably close to 15, 20 years working on dealing with that. And, it thankfully kind of hit me really hard at one point, a long time ago, when, my brother told me something basically like he was afraid to be around me because of how frustrated I was getting and how angry I was getting at certain things that were happening in the world. And that really shook me to kind of wake up to the way I naturally just had this fuck it mentality. And so it's taken me a long time to understand those feelings and emotions for myself, but I haven't gone through nothing compared to what so many people are standing out there fighting for. Right. And I think that's the thing, is it really is, it does suck to lose, some monetary value and whatever that thing is. But at the end of the day, for me, I don't want to see anyone lose their life over anything. And I can't think about the material shit at the same time, I'm thinking about that person's life. And that's the hardest part about all of this shit is like you said, Robbie, seeing the way people portray the people that are looting. Don't get me wrong. They're clearly people just out there for a come up, and people of all colors, people of all backgrounds, people of, like the thing about what's going on right now is that it's compounding, right? Yes, we need to deal with police brutality in America. We wouldn't have gotten the looting and all of the craziness that's gone on with what's people just trying to distract from the peacefulness. If you didn't have, people stuck inside because of COVID, handled poorly by our government, because of the economy and so many people out of jobs, I am thankful, that I have, enough money to last me another month or two, and I'll figure out what I got to do. I can sell my sneakers, hopefully, or whatever that is to keep it moving. Right. But like people that have lost their jobs are feeling so much more pressure. And then to feel that they can't trust the people that you're supposed to be able to trust when shit hits the fan in our world. It's not a surprise that people are frustrated. And I think that part of what's a challenge in America, and I told you guys this, in the past couple of weeks as we've talked, we don't get to talk about these things. We don't have people say, I'm going to sit here and listen, because we're not taught that. And that takes a lot of work as human beings, because a lot of us don't have those support systems around us on a regular basis. And when we do, we don't really necessarily know how to talk in those situations, because these are tough conversations to have. It's like you see the natural uprising of what's going on in the shit that people need to just get off their chest. Then you see people trying to have conversations about what's going on. Then you see people respond with, well, what about me? Or what about them? Or what about this other person? And it's like, well, if that's your response to anything, you're clearly not listening to the person and hearing what they're saying. And I think that is the root of all of this, systemic problem that we have in America. And unfortunately, like, social media continues to kind of distract from that actual problem of like real conversation. I think, I think you just brought it up, Mike, but it's like, you see this such a comparison and such a, like clout chasing and dick swinging of like, I've done this and this and this and this and this. And I'm happy for you. Like, whatever you can do, that's what you should do. But if you're, 60 years old and have underlying health conditions of some kind, it's okay to stay at home. And, maybe you're on social media and you're resharing stuff, or maybe you're just texting a friend and saying, yo, man, haven't heard from you in a while, but I just want to tell you I love you. Like, all that stuff matters. And I think we're in this really shitty place around social media that, like, we don't acknowledge that those little things happen, because everybody's out there trying to one up each other rather than just being like present and there for the person that's standing next to them, or that's laying on the ground next to them in protest. That's like the thing that's completely missing. And I hope that, for everybody that's listening, I'm, obviously off on a little tangent here, but I hope that, the messages that come from these brands that you're seeing, that you recognize that deep down, it's the conversation that needs to be had. That's what everybody's trying to understand and trying to put out there. And I'm not saying that everybody is genuine in their messaging. Me being a Colin Kaepernick fan and a 49er fan prior to, stopping watching football, like, that is the perfect example of, somebody just hopping on the bandwagon to try to say, the NFL just trying to save their ass because the players came out and said, we stand with Black Lives Matter. We stand with this whole police brutality, against this police brutality that's going on. And the NFL, obviously conveniently a day or two later comes out and says the same thing. And it's like, we already know your institution is one of the problems, right? So, well, I really hope that people look deeper and we can continue to hold these businesses accountable, both from the inside and out, right? Because I don't want to dismiss that, like, as much as I don't want to watch the NFL, they employ a lot of people. They employ some of my friends, and I don't want those people to lose their jobs. I don't want them to not be able to play the game. But at the same, kind of with the same mentality that we're all, saying, hey, police need to stand up against the police that are bad. That's the same way that I hope that businesses move forward with this message, because they all have plenty of money to throw around and say, we're donating here, we're donating there. But that doesn't really change the system. The system only changes if the people within that company speak up when it's hard to speak up, when they know that they might get fired for that. And I'm not saying to go mouthing off to your, boss or whatever, but like, sometimes that's what has to happen. And sometimes that change, that shift, maybe you are up there in Portland and you're working on one side of the river, and now you're working on the other side of the river because you had to speak your truth. And I think that is, kind of getting into like some of these messages. I hope that people are paying attention to what's going on, because there's a lot of companies that, I think every company has issues. I don't think any company is going to be perfect. I think that applies to every possible range of business that you could think of. But I do think that when companies capitalize on these moments with, witty slogans or creative videos or whatever, it's like, you better be there when nobody else is being there, just as much as you're there when everybody wants to see this shit, and you're going to get a bunch of sales out of it.
So I think what's important to fall back a little bit on before we go too much into, brand messaging and stuff, is that, we wouldn't there wouldn't be any of these brand messages. There wouldn't be any riots. There wouldn't be looting. There wouldn't be real protesting like this if we would just get conviction, if we would just have justice at the time. In this particular instance with George Floyd, if we would have had the convictions up front quickly with the video evidence we've all seen, I think a lot of the damage could have been averted. But it doesn't work that way, and that's why there has to be this kind of reaction. It's because, Colin Kaepernick in 2017, trying to bring it to light there. How many times have Black people and allies of the Black community tried to get this point across? Every single time there is a Black man or woman murdered by police across the country. This is no new thing. It's disgraceful and sad. As I try to go through my memory, there's too many to count. There's too many to name. You have to have a 4-page swipe through list to try to get all the names of Black men and women killed by police. So, I mean, it's corny by some brands and it's successful by others to have these kind of messages of solidarity out there. But none of this would happen if we could find a way to have swift justice. And hopefully this route we've chosen is that path towards future swift justice.
Yeah, most definitely.
So that's what it all comes back to. If we would have solved this problem in the 1900s, we wouldn't be having this problem now in 2020. So, I mean, with that said, we'll start talking more about brands here. And I know I'm historically a no Bach boy, but I think from where we come from, the shoe perspective, they did the best when it comes to messaging. Jordan Brand and Nike obviously has the biggest guns. They've flaunted that bag most prevalently out of all the brands. 100 million over 10 years by Jordan Brand and 40 million over 4 years from Nike as a whole. But I think as Reebok really said it best from three people here who wear shoes. Without the Black community, Reebok would not exist. America wouldn't exist. So please take that message right there. It's not only Reebok wouldn't exist. Our careers wouldn't exist. This podcast wouldn't exist. Michael Jordan as a shoe person would not exist. And nothing that we hold of value in shoes or this shoe culture as a whole would not exist without the Black community. So I think that being their first statement, spot on. And then the second one here, we are not asking you to buy our shoes. We're asking you to walk in someone else's. The first sentence there being a big point that we stand behind is like, shoes aren't important right now. I don't care what's going on Kicks Deals. I don't care what's going on Nike.com. I'm not trying to buy shoes right now. I could give two shits less. It's just not important. But what is important is trying to empathize and understand that no, not all lives matter. We're talking about Black Lives Matter. Understanding how a community is feeling and empathizing with that and walking in their shoes. It's one of the oldest, phrases in the book, but extremely well used there. And then the last slide here, to stand in solidarity, to find our common ground in humanity. Like we've kept saying, anybody with a head on their shoulders should be valuing life, should understand that Black lives matter like any other life should. In a perfect rainbow-filled world, yes, all lives would matter. But we need to find that common ground of humanity and lift the Black community up so we can enjoy that all lives matter phrase without it sounding salty and against the grain. So from a brand perspective, I'll start it off there. Reebok smashed it. That's bar none the best without having to throw $140 million at the problem.
Yeah. This is... I'm only 30, but I've seen some things here and there, and as I was younger, as I'm now older, this itself, I think, was the boiling point, the tipping point, not just in the sense of police brutality, because yes, that needs to get fixed, like a million times over. That needs to be fixed because I don't want to leave my house and think that, if I get stopped on a road, that might be the last time you guys hear from me on the podcast. And it's just a sad thing because me personally, I've been stopped for no particular reasons, just because cops you're a little too dark to be driving a nice car, or so on and so forth. And it's like, and like I said before in the video I posted, it's not every cop. It's just the ones who are doing the bad shines through. Everything a bad person does, because just the way the world works, that's what we see. We don't see the good things that are done. Now, this is again, it is, yes, a big part of it is just we're sick of getting mistreated by law enforcement, but we're sick of getting mistreated by just the general public. I mean, Robbie, that you said it best with Reebok's statement, is like, without Black people, we wouldn't be here. America wouldn't be here. And all of us, we live in the social media world, us, because that is our job. Like, we put out the podcast, we connect with people. That is what we do. And you see more than not, other races they'd love to do the same things that the Black culture does, whether it be sneakers, clothes, music, whatever it is. They love the culture, but they don't see us as people. They're just like, oh, cool, I like his shoes. Who's that? Or, there's just so many boxes that Black people are put in. And I cannot remember what song I heard this from. It was an older Childish Gambino song. And then the line was basically like, white kids can put whatever hat on they want, but for Black kids, it's one size fits all. Everyone's looked the same way. And it's just really just annoying, is, I guess, probably lack of a better word. I mean, it's frustrating that you will get eyed down by someone in the street who knows zero about you, and they'll make a perception about you. Something simple as me. I mean, no one, people... I probably don't tell a lot of people, I just knew in the past about the podcast. I'm like, I don't. People don't talk to anymore. And people see picture something. Oh, you guys got a lot of shoes. Look like you wasted money on shoes. I'm like, you don't know what I do. You just think, oh, it's a Black guy spending money on shoes. You don't know the backstory. Yes, I do like them and probably have more than I need, but there's a reason for it. But yeah, it's just a boiling point, and I, for one, I think I've been having a headache for probably the past 12 to 14 days, however long it's been going on, because I literally am to a point of just we got to do something. And I think something's finally happening. Growth hurts. So this looting, this riot, even though I don't condone violence or destruction, I don't believe in that, but growth hurts. And this is growth, I hope. It is going to take us sustaining this as not just Black people, but everyone, wanting to actually hear and listen and change. But this has to do something, because brands are getting scared, for lack of better words there, because at no other point, whether it's Trayvon Martin, anyone else who has been unjustly killed in the streets, there's never been an uproar like it's been. And whether they're genuine or not, these statements, the brands are scared and know that something's going to happen. Like, we have organized enough to make things happen. Black people look like we are willing to say, you know what? I will stop funding your brand. I don't care. I typically would watch the NFL. I mean, not, the Texans, that's my team, and I would typically watch them. But I have, at this point, I was telling Nick and Robbie before we started that I'm done with the NFL. And I almost rather them have not said anything than to do what they did, and was to basically say, oh, this is really happening? Oh, I guess we better say something because our players came out and said something. That is trash. The NFL is a bunch of trash bags, and I hope that league literally just gets what they deserve, because I don't think a single person of color, any Black person, should support that. And then you have star quarterbacks like Drew Brees still spitting nonsense. You live in New Orleans, bro. Like, what are you doing? You live in a city predominantly Black, and you say, oh, I do this and this, but you still, I don't respect anybody who's not going to respect the flag. It's not about the flag. People keep making it about a freaking flag. It is about the injustice that we deal with on a daily basis. And it's frustrating to see that people still can't wrap their heads around it. So, that is kind of my rant.
Just while you brought up the flag, if there was another place Colin Kaepernick could stop and have everybody look at him with his helmet off before, out of the context of the game, to try to get a message across, there's not another time. So
no, that's the best time, because people are looking at you on that field. And for our so-called leader to say, oh, I think you should be, cut without pay, which the idiots in the freaking NFL pretty much did to the man, it is nonsense, because he did his research. He did not, he sat first, and he was told by former, or veterans, like, hey, that's disrespectful. And he went and asked, what can I do? Kneel. And I don't know if anybody's seen lately, just because I don't want to be blindsided by something crazy that our president does, I follow him on Twitter just to make sure I can see it coming. He's still talking about people shouldn't be kneeling for the flag. Well, you shouldn't be shooting rubber bullets and tear gas at people because you want to take a picture at a church with a Bible that I'm sure burned your dang hand.
I mean,
I don't know, man. I'm just super frustrated about just everything right now.
Those same people that trip out about the flag being America, I mean, kneeling during the flag is disrespectful to America. Those same people are the same people that hide behind the Bible saying that, there shouldn't be interracial marriages, or there shouldn't be, gay people. There shouldn't be whatever type of bigotry and hatred they want to spin behind the Bible. I feel like there's a lot of correlation between those people and the people saying that you're disrespecting America, and, you're saying a big F you to the troops by kneeling during the national anthem. Those are just people trying to hide their bigotry behind something that they think more people could be galvanized behind. Oh yeah, with America, everybody should be pissed about the flag. Nothing about the cause, it's about the flag in America. The same way, a white guy with a cross around his neck can go, beat and murder a black person.
Yeah.
And I keep stuttering because I get really angry about it. It's like
No, dude, I feel the same way. I'm like, I can't get my words straight half the time.
I mean, one of the biggest reasons why I am a pretty devout, I don't even like saying atheist, but like anti-religious. It's like I'm against even being against religion. Just the whole premise of it's not for me. And that's a big reason why I get so angry at religion. It's like so many people, and there's people who don't do this and genuinely try to seek salvation and all the benefits of whatever religion you're into. But there's so many people who just use it as a shield for their own unholy thoughts.
Yeah,
it drives me nuts.
100%. Because I am like, I was baptized as a Baptist. I mean, I've always like had like a weird thing with organized religion, but I truly do believe in the Bible. I pray as much as I can because I believe in it. I feel like that we do have a higher power, but people abuse that higher power, something that is supposed to be a completely holy and completely good. They hide their evil behind it because they think people won't question it. Like a lot of evil deeds were done not behind, oh, God told me to do this, but it was, oh, I did it because of the Bible. No, you hid behind it because you think people won't question you if you hide behind something all holy and all good. You think it's like, oh, I can't question this evil. Where does it say that? Like, and I cannot remember the passage and what book it's in, but there's literally a point to where it does a breakdown. I think someone posted it and I have to find it, but basically it's the same analogy of, hey, if we have a group of people and one person gets hurt, lost, I'm going to find that one person to help that person and bring them back into the group. So these all lives matters posts are a bunch of BS. I'm like, well, no, you're being selfish at this point, because if you truly did believe in this, in the book that you say you do, that I know I do, you know that this person, this race of people who's been like chastised and just put through just hell, we need help. We need you guys to listen to us, and you use us for everything else. Bring us back into freaking humanity and treat us like we're living and breathing just like you.
So, not to keep going on a back and forth and leaving Nick out of it, but just while you brought that up, Nick, maybe you feel the same way about this too. But non-black listeners, specifically white people out there listening to this, if you came from or still live in a religious family and you see the racist undertones of your parents, uncles, grandparents, brother, sister, cousin, whoever it is in your network of family, and you came out okay, and you came out not racist, and you came out understanding the difference between right and wrong and love and hate, then you need to have those tough, awkward conversations with your family and put the mirror in their face and say, okay, if you love God so much, or if you're so deeply religious, why are you hating on one of his children? However you want to phrase it, that's just what came to mind for me first. But
that's a good way to put it.
But where a lot of long-term change comes from is really is advocacy, advocating for the black people out there, your friends, your mentors, your coworkers, anybody, because having conversations like we're having, where we all agree and we all have the same stance of, I want to say, the right stance. That's an easy conversation. It's easy for us to have this, and I'll chime in with all kind of the same backbone of statement. But real change, long-term change, comes from letting the people know who don't share the same opinion as you, who you're close with, letting them know that they're wrong and that they're using whatever book of religion that they worship, maybe not in the best light. Because like Nick said, you can't be pushing your religion on other people, but then as an outsider using your said religion incorrectly and not following real guidelines of like what it is to be a quote unquote good Christian. So I don't think being a good Christian is also condoning, the lynching of a black person. That's hypocrisy 101. So please, if you take anything from this podcast episode, find the strength within yourself and the courage to advocate for the black community to the people who don't already agree with you, because those are the people we need to change to have big change.
Yeah, I think that, I'm just, as I'm listening to you guys, and obviously you both make great points. It's easy to have this conversation with people that you share the same views with. And, I think the thing that I'm hearing beyond that is like kind of just reiterating what I said initially is like, Colin Kaepernick choosing to take a knee versus just sitting on the bench came from his conversation with a service member, a white, military service member of the United States. And that changed the perspective because he went and had the conversation. Both those two guys had a conversation and listened to each other to better understand each other, but to make it even more poignant for what Colin was doing. And I think that's, Mike reiterated that in his conversation there where, it's like, you're just asking to be heard. You want people to listen because that's what's missing. Right. And I think, we do collectively hide behind a lot of beliefs, whether that's religion or, there's many things that we all kind of we all have blinders on in a lot of ways. And I don't want to make light of the situation, but the easiest way for me to kind of translate what I'm trying to say is if you've listened to the podcast for a while, that Reebok questions and Nike Flight 89s are my thing. And so you could throw ugly shit on that and I'm going to like it to at least a certain extent. And that's kind of the blinders that I'm talking about. Like on a massive level, we do. And I don't necessarily have a problem with, religion or the Bible or any of people's beliefs. And I think that's the thing that's missing in our world is that we don't have acceptance for people that are different than us. And, it's kind of, not coincidence, but my girlfriend and I just watched the Harvey Milk story. And if you're not familiar with that story, is basically the first openly gay, I guess, government employee in San Francisco. He basically moved to San Francisco when he was about 40, ended up getting really involved in the community and became a change agent for the entire, gay community in San Francisco. And this is, back in the 70s when it wasn't San Francisco and the Castro district was not what it is today, where it's very open to anyone. And the police were still beating on these, mostly guys. But we watched it because, I knew the story and I'm familiar with the story and what it meant for that community in San Francisco and what it meant for the community around the world when he took on those battles and, kind of became the face of that change and that acceptance. And, to Robbie's point about religion, the same arguments that are made today by people hiding behind their beliefs were the exact same things that they dealt with in the 70s, for just being different. And here we are still doing the same shit. And that's the problem is people glass over, get their, blinders on, and they just judge without being able to actually hear someone. And I think for me, it's really tough to have these conversations, my girlfriend is, mixed, and she is having her own conversations, and I'm having conversations with her. And, Mike and I were talking about this before we started recording, and this is all tough conversations to have, because we're all frustrated, angry, hurt. We're feeling all these crazy different emotions. And, I think a majority of us in the United States, believe that everybody should be treated equally. And it's really unfortunate that we're dealing with all this shit still. But at the same time, I'm really hopeful that, like Mike said, there's such a movement and an organization and change. We're seeing little things happen, and hopefully those little things add up and continue to push this to get through this pain of growth, but come out of it as a better country, and all of us more proud of the country that we live in. And I think the other thing I wanted to say is, I don't want this, obviously I don't want the podcast to be divisive and have you be offended by what we're talking about. But instead of you, if you're listening to this and you're just getting heated by what we're talking about, message me. I'm happy to talk about this stuff with you and try to understand your perspective on it, because that's the thing that I really feel doesn't happen enough in the world. And if I can use, sneakers to have these tough conversations with people that might not see things from the same perspective that I do, I'm open to try to have those conversations with anybody who needs to have them. And, I hope you guys don't bombard me with a bunch of hate, but if that's what you need to do to feel better, then so be it. It's better than, going and hurting somebody. So, I guess kind of shifting a little bit. I do think that, at least in the sneaker world, it's nice to see, we've been critical of MJ and Jordan Brand on the, political or on the activism front, right? So it was really nice to see Jordan Brand come out and, commit 50 million from the company, and then, Michael committing 50 million as well.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just kind of commend, obviously, all the brands for trying to make an effort, regardless of how that was taken or whatever. I do think that, there is good intention behind most of it. It might not be the best to what we expect from some of these companies, but it's also one of those things where, I'd rather see somebody speak up than to not say anything at all. And I think the last thing that I really kind of wanted to touch on was to kind of talk about this Adidas, I guess the potential protests from the Adidas employees. I don't know. I don't really know what to think about it. I don't feel like, I should say, I feel like this kind of stuff happens at a lot of brands. And, I think that this is all good that we're getting to the point of having these conversations. I think that the, challenges that exist within a company oftentimes aren't the belief system of the entire company. It's, I hate to say this, but it's usually a handful of shitty people that cause the most pain internally at a company. At least that's my experience and my work experience through, the 12, 14 years that I've been doing this footwear stuff. But I'm really optimistic to see Adidas so quickly respond and say, we are going to have this conversation. And hopefully the people that are upset get some, I guess, resolve out of the conversation, whatever that is for them. So I don't know. What do you guys think about this whole kind of protest, the Adidas protest specifically?
Man, I got to see what
really.
Okay, Rob, I'm sorry.
I don't have much other than, Adidas better have that conversation, because they're going to have the conversation with them. So it's good to try to meet it head on, I guess. But I want to say it wasn't even a year ago. There was a story of like inequality, well, many stories of equality at Adidas. So this is nothing new. It makes me happy that the employees are using this opportunity to take it a step further outside of just, airing past grievances or situations online. But it was just funny to me to hear you say Adidas is going to have the conversation. It's like, well, yeah, they better. So go on, Mike. That's all I really had to say about it.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm just kind of echoing what you said as well. I mean, it's something that is going to be talked about. I mean, we don't know the inner workings. We're not there every day. So we don't know exactly what's being said and what's not. So we're kind of just wondering to see what's going to happen. And they especially have to do these kind of things if the people on their roster are, three, maybe four big names. You got Pharrell, Pusha T, Beyonce, and I'm going to get to this last guy in a minute, but you have three really big people in the black community. So if there's something going on, you may want to address it and change it quickly, because all of these sneakers may not be, gangbusters out the door all the time. They're a big part of your demographic, and you could find yourself in a big hole and just being bad human beings. Like, why not just be a decent person and be able to, run a successful company? You don't have to be a dick, basically, to make this happen. Now, the last person, of course, is Kanye, which we never know what he's thinking. I don't think he knows what he's thinking half the time. But it came out in, I think, Heist Nobody. I think they deleted the tweet because I've seen a bunch of screen captures for it, but I haven't been able to find the actual tweet so far. But it came out that apparently he was speaking with one of his fellow good music rappers, GLC, and basically saying that, yeah, I've been playing a long con of this whole Donald Trump thing. Like, I here take all these hats. Basically, in short, that he put the hat on to make sure he can get the meeting and acted a fool to be able to get in front of him to get people out of jail. Now, I don't know if that's true. I really hope it is. I mean, I would love to see it just kind of the long con pay off and he just flip and denounce this man. But I don't know. That would be pretty amazing, and then hopefully that would be Adidas wouldn't use that as an excuse to act the way they act anymore.
I mean, I think anybody that's a fan of Kanye is like a true fan of Kanye is like hoping for the same thing, right? I mean,
crossed.
he I mean, I just think back to the whole, MTV George Bush comments and, how much he, at least from my perspective, used to speak up about about so many different injustices. And I do think that, I don't want to dismiss him, as a human being because he wears, a hat, but I also am deeply offended by that hat for what it stands for.
Yep.
And I think a lot of what he's said along the way has been very dismissive of people's concerns and the perception of what he's doing and how it affects much bigger things than just, a few people here and there. Right. So it's nice to see him protesting. It's nice to see him, donating. Like, I really truly believe that everyone that has a platform and has an audience, has a responsibility to speak up for things, especially like this, what's going on right now. But I'm really hesitant to just like dismiss it, dismiss my kind of, I don't know, like distrust of him and his, it's really tough because on one hand, like I also totally like have compassion for, his mental challenges and the just this shit that he's got to deal with on a regular basis. It's from the outside, yeah, it looks like, okay, cool, this guy's, whatever, a billionaire, blah blah blah, but like the pressure that comes with that kind of stuff is no joke. And the pressure to be successful with as kind of, I guess, outspoken as he's been, in the last 2-3 years, is that much more pressure that he puts on himself, and that much more pressure that comes from society, because he makes a comment like, yo, I'm, X million dollars in debt. And, I don't want to dismiss his own personal struggles, because they exist, whether he has a pile of money or a pile of Yeezys. They exist the same way that all of us have our own personal struggles and challenges. And
for sure.
I do think that, seeing the posts from High Snob and GLC's comments, it's like, that's, I think, to me, one of his original, like, homies from back in the day, right? He was on the very first early stuff. And to me, that is telling. And I hope that he's listening to the people that are around him, because that's we're just in a time where he needs to be very clear about what he's about, who he supports.
Yep. Yeah, just we'll have to see what kind of where the chips fall on that one, but yeah, man, I don't want to berate anybody too much more of it. I mean, I know you guys get it on the news a lot, but again, as a black male in a society, I just really hope that everyone of any different race really does just take the time to sit down and understand. I think that's the hard part. It's like we want understanding to see where we're coming from, not just to be cast aside. So that's just my request from our viewers, our listeners. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I don't know. Just, you don't have to do everything in the world. There's no way you can do everything in the world. But just having an open mind and listening will be, I think, the best jumping off point for everyone in the world.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's all I can ever ask for. Just listen and be willing to make a change. Stop because you hear something you thought it was cool. That don't make it cool. Like, be your own person. Listen. I'm sure you'll hear something that will blow your mind.
Yeah, I didn't want to jump into Kanye's. Like I told you guys before we started recording, I'll kind of always find a way to justify Kanye's. But when it comes down to, like, learning and understanding, to kind of go a step further from my understanding from what Mike said, go do that good learning on your own time. Like, don't seek, this is what I've been told, like, don't seek black people to explain, the past 400 years to you. There's tons of resources out there. Your black friend isn't the voice of all black people. That's another very important thing to remember. Like, Mike doesn't speak for the entire black community. Like, that's just his views and his thoughts. Much like Kanye and his views and his thoughts have to be taken that way. But go seek that information and learn. It sounds weird saying it on your own time, but you don't have to involve other people for you to learn. Like, you don't get help on studying when you're in school. So, black people are going through a lot right now. So may not be the best time to be like, hey, tell me everything right now. When your friend probably has a lot on his mind and heart right now. So, be there, be a listener, be supportive. But, you can find tons of great resources on your own.
Yeah. And just to wrap up, we'll throw a bunch of links in the description for this episode and up on the site that you guys can go and find ways to educate yourselves and, hopefully find an understanding, and ways to donate, ways to support that don't cost any money, all that kind of stuff. We'll share all those in the description for this episode. But just wanted to thank everybody for listening and, kind of close with just be kind to one another and be kind to yourself, because right now is a very challenging time for a lot of people, and you don't got to beat yourself up over the struggles that you're having. This is kind of the time that you can take a step back and, like Robbie said, just educate yourself a little bit and hopefully find some compassion and empathy for the people that are really struggling right now. So
Before I leave, this one last little thing. A lot of people are compelled right now to support Black businesses, and I just want to say or challenge you to keep that same energy a year from now, because it's great to be helping out, your favorite Black-owned restaurant or coffee place or bar or whatever type of place it is. But just remember those establishments a year from now too. Like don't make it a one-time thing, please.
Agreed.
yeah, most definitely. All right, we'll catch you next time. Peace.
See ya.
This time, bye.
Hey everyone, this is Nick again. Before you take off, do us a solid and head over to Apple Podcasts to leave us a review. Give us a rating on Spotify and Amazon Music, and make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel because we have even more video content coming soon. Speaking of new content, we have an amazing community of sneaker enthusiasts that hang out in our Sneaker History Discord on a daily basis. While sneakers is a connection point that brought us all together, we've all discovered countless shared passions that we have in common with each other. We recently launched a couple of new podcasts directly from our community. One of them is a Formula One podcast. If you're an F1 fan like me, the Exhaust Notes podcast is your weekly fix of Formula One fun. It's hosted by myself, Rohit Malhotra, and Todd Yates. New episodes drop every Tuesday. I've been wearing fitted hats for years and collecting my favorite teams since I was a little leaguer. It has been awesome to see so many new fans getting into fitteds in recent years. Crown and Stitch is our new talk show about fitted hats with Dexter, Keith, and myself, where we talk about fitted hats, snapbacks, throw in some obscure hats because we all kind of like some funky stuff once in a while, don't we? Copping, collecting, and so much more. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Hit the links in the show notes for this episode to give our new shows a listen, and be on the lookout for more new podcasts dropping soon. Last but not least, tell someone you like their kicks today. You never know how far a simple compliment can take you, and we all know how good it feels to have someone show their appreciation. Thank you all for the support, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.